What's going on, you guys? So, Grand Tactician posted a new dev blog called European Intervention. I'm very psyched about this, very curious because, well, it deals with European intervention. I know Mexico, Britain, and France are possibilities. So, let's take a look at this. All right. During the mid-19th century, the United States was a world power, challenged the status of more traditional European empires of the time. According to Monroe Doctrine in 1823, the United States would oppose any European interference in the Americas. But things have changed with the Union dissolved and a civil war raging between the North and the South. All right, European empires. In Grand Tactician, the Civil War, there are three European empires that could play a role in the Civil War. While Spain has lost many colonies in the early 19th century, they still hold Cuba, or do they with 100% certainty? I like where they go with that, and have the mindset of an empire. The more prominent and British and French empires are stronger but exhausted by the Crimean War fought between 1853 and 1856 against the Russian Empire. Is that where the Charge of the Light Brigade happened? I think that's where it is. In that war, where the Americans sent their own observers, like one Captain George McClellan. I didn't know he was sent as a observer. That's interesting. War for so he was kind of like the. He was kind of like that British observer in the movie Gettysburg. I know he was a colonel. I forgot the rest of his name. I should know as I saw the movie a couple hundred times. Fremantle, Colonel Fremantle. Warfare saw the emergence of iron-plated ships and rifled muskets. The war also revealed some real problems with traditional European military organization and tactics, usually associated with the Charge of the Light Brigade in the Battle of Balaclava. So I was correct. I probably screwed up the name of that Balaclava. Close, probably close. The British, the former colonial masters' opponents in the War of 1812, still hold the prominence of Canada north of the Great Lakes. During the Crimean War, the regular troops from Canada were shipped to Europe and have not returned. Oh, wow. Instead, the province's defense rely on militia, with numbers and training being questionable at best. When the Civil War erupted, the British military took a neutral stance, observing the situation as it developed. This neutral stance took a sharp turn with the Trent affair, where in November 1861, a U.S. ship stopped and boarded a British vessel, Trent, taking Confederate diplomats into custody. I remember that. I remember there was a quote that Abraham Lincoln said in the Civil War documentary. He said, "One war at a time," or something like that. It was interesting. This caused a great diplomatic uproar, and the British started making plans for a possible intervention in North America, strengthening the forces in Canada, preparing an expeditionary force in Europe. While the British had some sympathy for the Southern cause, they remained neutral throughout the war. The existence of slavery in the South was seen as a moral issue, but cotton was direly needed in the British textile mills, a fact the Confederacy could try to take advantage of, which didn't work out in the real world. The French, under Emperor Napoleon III, had their own continental issues with Prussia, which made their interference unlikely. While more sympathetic to the Confederacy, the French did not either officially recognize the Confederacy. But with the Civil War creating a power vacuum in North America, the French, along with the British and Spanish, see the opportunity to intervene in Middle American affairs. Mexico is still recovering from the stingent defeat in the war against the United States between 1846 and 1848, where they lost a large part of their land, owes money to the Europeans. With the United States unable to intervene, a European expeditionary force is sent to Mexico to force President Juarez to pay. While the intervention becomes as a joint European effort, it soon becomes clear that the French have far larger ambitions. The British and Spanish forces eventually withdraw, with the French pushing inland to conquer Mexico. Wow. The French operation in Mexico is a large one, with troops numbers exceeding 30,000, almost one-fifth of the French army at the time. Ooh, interesting. That's interesting. If the French are successful, it could be that the Confederacy will have a sympathetic southern neighbor. So, that's interesting. Right there it says, if the French are successful. I wonder if this is going to be like a random by chance event. I guess when you're playing the game, the French AI is going to fight the Mexican AI, and, well, if the French win, it's going to be good for the Confederacy. And what if the Confederacy would be in a position to directly support the French operation, allowing a stunning victory and freeing up the French expeditionary force to other operations? That's interesting. So that kind of leads me to believe that you as the Confederacy can get involved by, I guess, declaring war on another empire, like Mexico. Diplomacy. In the game, it's possible to try to influence the foreign relations with Europe. This is done by investing dollars in diplomacy and also following policies that are appealing to the European nations. At that time, as Europe was exhausted by the Crimean War, feeding the citizen was a problem. The United States with their vast farmlands expanding to the Midwest was a solution, and the northern player could make the Union a true breadbasket of the world. Who would bite the feeding hand? The Confederacy also holds an advantage, which is the majority of the world's cotton production, at least for the time being. With the Industrial Revolution, textile mills in Europe need to be fed with cotton from the South. It is widely believed in southern states that the king cotton would be the decisive force, preventing a war with the North and bringing Europeans to their aid if needed. As the player, you must weigh the different political possibilities carefully, as you cannot be strong in all areas. During the game, the possibilities of European intervention will change. And in the case the Europeans are convinced that the Confederacy has a fighting chance, I really like that. If you do kind of like a Gettysburg, but you win as the Confederacy, it's going to be like a Saratoga kind of thing. Maybe a sympathetic nation would see their opportunity to grow their influence in North America by siding with the South. The British position in Canada is not strong, but that direction offers a possibility to strike the Union's heartlands from behind. A movement via Mexico would also be possible for the French if the French resistance is crushed. The forces we use for the Europeans are such as they could have been during this war. The capability to move huge armies to North America was limited, and the Europeans really understood the value of converting their fleets to ironclad ships after observing the Civil War naval operations. But they will not be a pushover, as a soldier will be experienced and well drilled. In the image above, you will see some of the historical European commanders operating in American theater at the time of the Civil War. If you play your cards right, you could see some of them on your side, and in the worst case, you may see some of them joining forces with the enemy. How many of you do recognize? Okay, P.S. As a request from a follower, we made interventions optional. Ooh, okay. That's really cool. I like that. So you could play just a traditional North versus South kind of thing. In options menu, you may choose to have Europeans remain neutral no matter what. Oh, I like that. Special thanks, Grand Tactician, for that. I'm only going to recognize Colonel Fremantle. I think that's the Mexican president. I think. Prussian? I think over there. I don't see the... I'm guessing the king? English king? You know, because red? I don't know. If you guys do see him, let me know and help me out a little bit. So, overall, looking at this, I am very excited about this, mainly because I like it for two things. One, if you don't want the Europeans at all involved, you can turn it off. That's awesome. I really like that. But I love the fact that you as the Confederacy can get involved in the Mexican War, or at least somehow influence that conflict with France. So France could, basically take over the position of Mexico and help you out. Or it looks like you could also, from what I read here, you can also have Mexico join your side in the Confederacy and go after the North. And the same thing with England. Now, also, if you're playing Union, if you get England on your side, it's going to be a short war. But yeah, this spices things up. I really like this. I really, really like this. This spices a lot of things up. I think for me, I will probably keep that option because it was a very real possibility that Europe can get involved, right? We had the battle, I think it wasn't until 1862, I think, when the Emancipation Proclamation was published, right, by Lincoln. That's when it was basically, there's no chance the Europeans would come in on the side of the South. I think Longstreet in the battle, in the movie Gettysburg, said it best when Colonel Fremantle was like, I do hope we become allies, and he says,
your government never ally itself with a confederacy that had the institution of slavery. You know that, so do I. We should have freed the slaves, then fired on Fort Sumter.
So, yeah, I guess whoever emancipates the slaves, that would be a big thing for the South. If you get to emancipate the slaves, I'm assuming there's probably like an event in this game where if you, the South, emancipate the slaves first, that will go a long way to get the British, French on your side. So that's going to be really interesting. And if the British, French come in, chances are the Spanish will come in. So, yeah, I'm very motivated. I cannot wait for this game to come out. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Catch you in the next one.